Hey, good morning, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Unlocked. I'm your host, Tracy Wilson. Always my pleasure to be here with you guys, especially on a Friday, because normally on Fridays, it's kind of my day to go solo. It's the day that I kind of share a whole lot of stuff about what I'm up to. Usually it's the day that I'm sharing how-tos, and I kind of give you a deep dive into various different things that are all related to kind of living your life unlocked. And that is all about like finding that voice within you, being able to share that, and being able to create freedom in your life through creating your own live show and speaking about what it is that you're an expert on. So if you are an expert and you would like to create your own show at some point, whether you've even got one now or you want to create one in the future, then I want you to hang about. Today's episode is going to be a little bit kind of different to what we've done in the past, in the sense that it may be a little bit longer. And this is probably going to be more, I would say, almost workshop like. So what I want you to do today is I want you guys to go and get yourself grab a cup of coffee if you haven't already got one, or a glass of water. Grab a pen and a paper, because as I move through today's session, I'm going to be talking about how to create a live show that actually creates a long shadow, creates a long-lasting impact, impression, and influence. Now, if you've been around for a little while and you've been in the marketing space or even in the business space, and you've been kind of on this path or a journey of trying to figure out how the heck do I get my message and my information out there? And if we go back, a decade or two, when the internet came out, everybody started out in the blogging space, then we had the podcast era, and now it is the era of the live show. So I want you guys to know that there is a huge opportunity out there right now to get your message out there and do it in a really effective way. Because if you do it as a live show, if you continue to listen to some of the things that I've been talking about over, the last, I don't know, I'm nearly into 100 episodes now, you will know that this show then can be taken and created into all sorts of different pieces of online content for all of my social media platforms, including a podcast. So if you're somebody who actually wants to create some leverage, you want to create, I'm just going to move that out of the road. You want to create, content that you can use for multiple different purposes, then I'm going to tell you that creating your own live show is a fantastic way of doing that. Now, that being said, there is a specific way in which you want to create this. And I've called this the casting your shadow method. So if you hang about in today's show, I'm going to unfold or unlock all of the different elements of the cast a shadow framework. And in that framework, so it's going to go for a little while, hence the reason that I've said to you, go get yourself a pen and paper. And a lot of what I'm talking about, what I was sharing with you today, is covered inside of a program. So I actually have a program that I coach students in, teach them how to actually create their own online show, not only from the technical aspect, but also from a point of view of how do they create their, find their audience, how do they create messaging that actually connects with people, and how do they create exposure so that they then have the ability to be able to create the exposure that you need out of a show like this, but create multiple pieces of content so that you're not spending all day and all week trying to figure out what the heck should I post on all of these different social media sites. So that being said, there is a specific way that you need to think about creating your live show. And when we're creating our live show, we're not just talking about creating it for one specific platform. So right now, live show, I'm live right now on Facebook, and I'm live on YouTube, multiple different channels on both of those different platforms. But I'm also talking about a very specific way of how you can now create this and turn it into those multiple pieces of content. So it's actually still relevant if you wanted to turn it into a podcast, if you wanted to turn it into multiple different stories on Instagram, LinkedIn, so on and so forth. So, like I said, hang about, because I'm going to take you through the specifics of how to create this framework, which I call the casting your shadow method. Now, I want you to think about this. So often when we're talking about like casting a shadow, there's often a negative connotation with that, like someone's cast a bad shadow or cast a long shadow and it's dark. In this case, we're actually thinking about this from a very positive perspective. You want to think about when you're creating your content or creating your show, you want to cast a very long shadow, but one that is, you're creating a great show that creates that long shadow, that gives a good impression, that increases your influence, and it also increases your ability to be able to use your content over and over and over again, thus giving you some scalability and leverage with with the time that you have, because we all have a limited amount of time, right? So I want you to very much think about it from that perspective. And the things that I'm talking about, going to uncover for you today, are going to be relevant for all those different platforms, whether it be a live show, totally relevant also for a podcast. So my intention for today is to give you a framework and a point of reference. So when I said that I want you to kind of grab out a pen and grab out a piece of paper and take some notes, that's my intention for you today. It's for you to create kind of the sense of this framework and a point of reference so that you can come back to this when you're thinking about creating your content on an ongoing basis. And this also applies whether you're speaking to an audience that is a virtual audience like so, or you're actually speaking even on a stage, or you're speaking in a workshop, or you're even potentially talking to people inside of any of your online programs. A lot of what I'm going to talk about today is relevant in all those different modes of delivery. So just think about it from that perspective too. So let's get kicked in with this. So the framework that I'm going to talk to you about is what is, like I said, it's called the casting a shadow. All right. And like I said, it is about casting that long shadow. So the first piece of the framework in this method is the C. The C is for content. So when we're talking about content, when we're doing our live show, and I'm making an assumption here that when you're going to do a live show, that you are already an expert. So you're somebody who knows your stuff. You know what you're talking about. And in fact, you would be able to like just turn on a camera, and you might not be happy with turning on a camera. You might not, be comfortable in front of a camera. But if you had to, if I just said to you, hey, let's talk about, your topic of expertise, and you could rattle off some things that you were an expert in, I am making an assumption here that you actually do already know a thing or two about your subject matter. So content, you must know your stuff. You need to, when you're building out your content, what you're doing there is you're demonstrating your level of knowledge and expertise. So creating a live show really does give you an opportunity to showcase what you know. So if you know some stuff, then this is a great format and a great forum for you to be able to really highlight and put the spotlight on you and what you know, demonstrating your expertise. So that's the C. And whenever you're creating any content for, whether it be inside of a live inside of a program that you're teaching, whether it be on a stage that you're going to do a presentation on, or you're going to be doing a presentation such as this on a live show or even on a podcast, beforehand you want to think out, what is the content? What is the intention and the outcome that I want my viewers, my listeners, and my audience to actually have? And how can I kind of structure that content in a way that I can get the message across so that they then too can go away and use it to their advantage? So that's always my intention whenever I'm creating something like this. So I start with the content. What's the topic, and what is it that I'm going to be talking about? And you too need to do the same. And again, just to reiterate, great opportunity for you to be able to showcase what you know and showcase what you're all about. The next thing in the method is the A, right? So CA. It's the next letter in cast. So the next thing is articulation. So what do I mean here is whenever you're doing a show, you want to make sure that you articulate things really well. Pronunciation. So you're pronouncing your words well, you're finishing your words. And I can tell you that through doing this over and over and over again, and even producing many people's shows, we, myself and our team, we do a lot of show production for other people, which means that we have to go back and we have to listen to the audio, and we need to watch the replays of people's shows to then be able to turn it into other pieces of content. And I can't tell you the number of times that we have to replay and try and rewatch and re-listen to sentences that people are saying because we cannot understand them. So one of the things you want to pay particular attention to is the articulation, is your pronunciation of words, is finishing your sentences, is finishing the word in in its totality, making sure that you actually complete your sentences. Also, that you want to give some inflection in your voice. So you want to have, to be able to take your viewers and your audience and your listeners on a journey through the light and shade in your voice. And I'm going to get to that a little bit more in one of the other sections of this framework. The other piece around articulation is clarity. So just also, again, clarity of your voice. So making sure that you're speaking really clearly, that you're speaking into your microphone at a in a way that is not so close that your voice is really, really muffled, or not that you're so far away that people can't actually hear you. So making sure that you're able to get your message across, that when you're speaking, you are speaking with a level of clarity. That also comes with clarity of mind, right? So again, links back to that content, really understanding what it is that you're going to be talking about, being able to speak about that really clearly and confidently, and then being able to articulate that in a way that the audience that you are speaking to is going to be able to understand it. I had somebody on my show on Wednesday, and we were talking. He was very technical. So the role that he had inside of his organization, he was an engineer, and he spoke about this, about how to articulate a message in layman's terms. So just really understanding the audience that you are speaking to, and ensuring that you are speaking and you are delivering the message at the level in which your audience wants to hear it. So just be mindful of that. The next section of the framework is what we call structure. So again, you'll see that inside of the shows, we're talking about kind of the structure of your show and your message really does matter. Because if you're all over the shop, you're speaking about one topic and then you're heading off into another direction, it can, it creates a sense of a mess in your viewers and your listeners' minds. So you want to make sure that you're very structured in what you're doing. Usually in the structure of the show, there's kind of like three components to it. There's a beginning. And in the beginning of your show, you're talking about your show opening. So it's the hook. Why should somebody actually listen? It's the show topic. So today, how to create a live show that casts a long shadow. Why? Because you want to be able to create a long-lasting impression, and you want to be able to increase the level of influence that you have in your industry. That was the hook and the intro for today's show. Secondly, in the intro, you may also have some tone setting. So the structure might also be, you've got a bit of music, you've got a bit of, maybe it's a little reel that you have at the beginning of your show, just really sets the structure and the tone of your show. In the middle section, so we've covered the beginning, in the middle section, you are then going to go into stories. You're going to go into the content. This is where that content, when you've created what the content is, you're going to slot that into the middle section of your show. What is the content? What are the topics that I'm going to cover today? What are the subtopics that I am going to speak on? It's kind of the guts and the meat and potatoes of what it is that you're going to be speaking about. And you want to make sure that you have really good meat and potatoes in what you're covering. If you're anything like me, I also talk about sort of the three different types of content that you should create, and you don't always want to create how-to. However, if you are somebody who is like me, I love how-to type stuff. Why? Because I'm the sort of person that will go researching online. I love doing DIY type stuff. I love learning how to do things. And I hate it when people give me half the recipe. I like to know, what is the structure? How do I do it? What are the steps that I need to take? Because I like to then go away and take action. So if you're like me and that's the type of audience that you want to appeal to, then you need to make sure that you're giving them some good guts inside of the content that you are sharing, so that they too can go away and actually, create and take action on what it is that you're talking about. Nobody likes a half-baked cake, right? So you will want to make sure that it's fully baked and they can actually go away and enjoy the fruits of their labor. The last piece of this is the end. So it's the what's next. So what's going to happen next? What will, can I continue to listen to your show? Where can I see you? Where can I continue to connect with you? What are the action steps that somebody would need to take? So that's the structure. So beginning, the middle, and the end. We've covered the C, the A, now we're up to the T. the S, and now we're up to the T. The T in the structure is tone. So the tone, so we're talking about tone of your voice, tone of your show. Is it a happy, light-hearted, friendly type of show? Is it a funny show? Is it a really serious type of show? So depending on what sort of show you're actually creating, you want to think about the tone in your voice and the way in which you actually deliver that messaging. If it's a sad show, you wouldn't be all upbeat and full of energy. It might be something that's a little bit more somber. It's a little bit more, slower paced. It might have, more. You might bring in some music to also give it a bit of tone in the show itself. So just really thinking about that tone. So tone of voice that matches the tone of your show, and also energy, the tone of you and who you are, and the tone of what it is that you do. So again, depending on what type of show you have, just be cognizant of the tone that I'm going to be using. Is there correlation between the type of show that I'm doing and the tone of my voice? You want to make sure that you give inflection in your voice and modulation. So have you got some peaks and troughs in what you're saying? Do you give light and shade to the conversation that you're having? Do you bring emotion to what you're talking about? And also just being aware of the pace. So sometimes when I've been watching other people's shows, and I do this a lot because inside of our program that we have called Influence and Authority Method, our team of experts actually go and start listening to all of our students' shows so that we can give them real-time feedback. We give them feedback on how their show makes us feel, the tone of their show, what's the pace of their show. Do they need to increase the pace? Because sometimes if you're talking really slowly and you're talking through things at that sort of pace, it can become, I want to say, batshit boring, and people don't want to listen anymore. Likewise, if you're sort of always too upbeat and on looking like you're on edge and it's a bit crazy, that also can be a distraction from the message and from who you are. Also, then just making sure that you give time for pauses. So whenever you've got a really good point to make or something that you want to get across, you want to make sure that it sinks in. You want to give your audience an opportunity to slow down. And to do that, you have to slow down. And it might even mean that you make a pause. So I might say something like, so today, guys, I want you to think about, what is the tone? I'm going to move over here a little bit because that tone is like right in my face. So, what is the tone that you are going to use? Think about that for a moment. And when you're allowing them to think, pause so that they can actually think. So those sorts of things you can also bring in, and it also then allows you to create tone and give your audience an opportunity to kind of pace with you. I'm just going to pause for a moment right now, and I'm just going to head on over and just have a look at some of the comments because I can see a bunch of comments that are actually coming through. Hey, Robert Stern, great to see you too. Amber, I can see a bunch of you guys all on here, so I just want to acknowledge that you're here and say hello. So I'm going to continue, just, that was a moment of pause so that I could come back and actually acknowledge who was actually watching the show today. So making sure that you take note of your tone of voice, really, really important. Okay, the next thing in here is, so we've covered off cast, C-A-S-T. So those 4 components make up the first part of the casting your shadow. That's the cast piece. All right, the next piece is the A, is the A. So the next thing we want to do is we want to make sure that we bring a level of authenticity to what we're doing. The thing is with a live show, guys, there's kind of like no hiding. So it doesn't really matter if you're starting a live show and you want to try and be like somebody else. It won't last very long. You can try as you may, but your true colors will come out. So you want to make sure that when you're starting out doing your show, that you're just being really authentically you. Bring your life into it. Bring, grandchildren. I have my grandkids here from time to time, not always at showtime. It's kind of a rule that I have to try not to have them here at showtime, but sometimes they are. So I'll bring them on the show, and it's just very authentic, keeping it real. Like I said, your true colors will shine. You want to, and you want them to. You want them to, and why do you want them to? Is because that's the thing that makes you stand out and makes you unique and gives you that point of difference from anybody else. If you are trying to be like somebody else and you're trying to create a show just like somebody else, well, you're just putting yourself right into that category. You're creating competition for yourself. So just be authentic, just be totally you, and don't try and be somebody else. Keep it real. Want to think about, these days, how many people are actually watching reality TV? Like, I don't watch a lot of TV, but if my husband's down there and he's watching TV and I can hear it, like there are so many adverts on reality TV. So people want to know the real you. Not that reality TV is very much reality. A lot of it is, fabricated. However, on a platform like this, podcast or live show, you are being authentic. They get to see who you really are. And it doesn't matter how much you try and hide who you really are through camouflaging with trying to be somebody else. Your true you will come out because there's no hiding in a live environment. It is live. You cannot edit, or you can edit it after the show, but once it's live and it's out there, right? So you want to make sure that you bring that level of authenticity and just be you, and don't be afraid to be you, because you are amazing and unique, and that is the way that you're going to stand out. So make sure you bring that level of authenticity to what you do. Okay, the next piece of this framework puzzle is sound. So the next thing is sound, right? So it's like it's the pitch. So pitch of your voice. So often one of the ways to kind of overcome this, or to just improve the pitch and tone of your voice, one is obviously to get a decent sort of microphone, and over time I'll continue to upgrade mine. But one of the things that you want to do is actually listen to your shows back, listen to your podcast back, and just listen to see, is it pitchy, even closing your eyes to hear yourself speak. One of the things that often I will go and listen to some people's podcasts, and if they're really high pitched, your ears just can't handle listening to that for a long period of time. Equally, if it's very monotone and they don't change the inflection in their voice, and they don't kind of use modulation, they don't change the tone or the pace, that also can be very boring and hard to listen to. So the sound of your voice is really important. Secondly, the sounds around you. So if you're doing a live show and you're somewhere that has got a lot of like background noise, you want to make sure that you have, you've got the right sort of equipment to be able to isolate that out, that you're in a place that you have created so that you can actually do your show, so that you're not having a lot of loud noises and things going on in the background. There's nothing worse than having TVs and toilets flushing and all those sorts of things going on in the background when you're trying to do something that is live. So really important that we pay attention to that. One of the things that I know for me that has been a bit of a challenge in the past is that I, after Christmas, had my parents come in and stay with me. And so that meant that the level of noise in my household kind of went up, particularly at the time of my show, when, things were happening in my household, and breakfast time pretty busy. So I was very aware that those sorts of things were happening. So I had to make sure that I set up the environment so that the sound on my show was nice and crisp and clear. So just be aware of that, the sound of your voice, and also the sounds of what's going on around you. Okay, the next thing I'm going to say, and this is a really important one actually. This is your head and your hands. So the H is for head and hands. Whenever you're doing a show, one way to be able to be, I suppose, more engaging and more charismatic is to use your head, nodding, and using your head to be able to add to the messaging that you are giving. Also using your hands. So just as you would if you were on a live stage, you want to think about your show environment, whether it be live like this with video or just being audio, that it is your stage. It may not be in an auditorium with thousands of people standing in front of you or sitting in front of you that you can physically see, but there are thousands of people that are going to be watching what you do on an ongoing basis. And if you're putting material out like this on a live, then your material is circulating on the internet 24/7 for people to listen to. So you want to make sure that you're using some of those same techniques that people would use on a stage to be able to engage your audience and keep them engaged here. The use of hand movements, the use of head movements, the use of me moving in and out of the screen, pulling people in. So all those things are really important. Using the camera, looking into the camera. So all those little things you want to make sure that you are using and bringing to your live show, including facial expression. So you want to make sure that you use all of those things to create the tone and the environment of your live show so that people want to watch and they want to, you want to have them remain engaged throughout the whole show. Okay, the next thing in the framework is A for attention. So let me just make sure that I've got this. Woohoo, I don't have it here. Is attention. So let's just not even put it up on the screen. Just imagine right now, people, that there is an A up on the screen and it is for attention. So you want to make sure that you're paying attention. You're paying attention to your audience. So I will head on over to my comment section and I will have a look and I would see, that I've actually got people here that I'm noticing their comments as they're coming through. I'm acknowledging them. And also the same when I've got somebody who is on as a guest with me. I need to make sure that I'm paying attention to what they're saying. I'm paying attention to their body language, because often their body language or even their voice can give me clues as to how they're feeling. And then as the show host, I can help them out. So I'm listening really carefully, because then I'm also able to go back and I'm able to ask follow-on questions and also circle back to anything that I thought was really awesome that they said. So you want to pay attention and you want to make sure that by doing things like that, you're also giving your guest positive feedback the same way that you are doing with with people who are on. So like I can see Robin Helm here is with me right now. She's saying there's no hiding on a live show. Absolutely. I can also see that I can acknowledge Robert Stern by popping him up onto the screen and saying, hey, Robert, it's also great to see you too. So just paying attention to who's watching, paying attention to your audience, equally paying attention to the guest that you have, and paying attention to yourself. So as I am recording this, I can see myself on the screen and I'm paying attention to what I'm doing. Am I doing all the things that I am talking about today? Am I using inflection in my voice? Am I using pace? Am I giving some tone? Am I creating a space of welcomeness? So we're paying attention to all of those things. Alrighty, the next thing we have got in the framework, we then move on to D. All right, D is for dress. We've heard this term before. You got to dress for success. So whenever you're doing a live show, and this is something that's interesting because I've been talking to my students about this inside of our program, and we were talking about preparation, like how do they prepare for a show? And a lot of them are talking about, well, they go and get themselves dressed. They go and prepare themselves for their show. Some of them put on their eyelashes. They put on, a special type of shirt. Some people that I've even spoken to, will wear their signature attire, which might be a hat or a bow tie or even glasses. I mean, you guys saw Steve Bartesco, who was on, or heard from Steve Bartesco, who was on my show a few episodes ago, and he was talking about how he makes an impression by wearing a bow tie. So you can, you want to use your dress to be able to prepare you for your show. If your show is very relaxed and it's, a show like this, then you would wear relaxed clothing. If your show is, is very professional, then you might wear something that is very professional. A suit might be appropriate. if it was a super professional type of show. You might want to wear your glasses. I've known people to put on, a set of pearls because they become their signature items. So just paying attention to your dress and what it is that you're, how you present yourself, and making sure that you bring those signature items to your show, again, that are in alignment with the type of show that you are doing. Alrighty, the next D in the framework is domain. Okay, so what I'm talking about here is owning the domain, owning the space that you're working in. And I'm talking both about kind of the internal and the external. So I'm going to go firstly to the internal. So that's like my domain, my state of mind. Am I in a good state of mind and a good frame of mind to get on here and present really well? Am I positive? Is my how do I get myself into state? The little piece of music that I hear when that's cueing me in on my show, I know that that's kind of my music to get me in the right state of mind to present in a positive manner. Secondly, your domain is like the exterior. So whenever you're creating a show, you want to also create the domain around you. So the things that are in frame. So pay attention to what's actually in frame on your screen. So when you're doing your live show, you're actually, before you even get on, you want to pay attention to, is your camera angle correct? What can people see in the background? Have you got a crazy mess in the background? Have you got something that may be inappropriate? And I'm going to tell you a little story here. I mentioned a little bit earlier about sound and how just after Christmas I had my parents move in with me because my mum and dad are not well. And anyway, just right behind me. So if I changed my camera angle in pre me kind of making some adjustments to my external domain, which is the show kind of background, I had just over there is over there, I should say, just over in that direction is a hallway, a doorway, and through that doorway you can see directly into a bathroom. So I had to make some quick adjustments to my household, because in the morning when I would be doing one of my shows would be the time where the nurses would be coming in to shower my dad. And as you can imagine, right through that doorway was the bathroom. So had I had a little hiccup with my camera, if this camera that I'm looking at right now switched off and I had to go to my camera on my right, you guys would be looking right through the hallway, right into the bathroom, and you'd be looking at a naked man, and that probably wouldn't be a very good look. So, paying attention to what's in your frame is really, really important, because you don't want to have that little mishap happen. Might be a little bit funny and interesting for people to see or not, but you just want to make sure that you're really paying attention to that. All right, what have we got next on the agenda? So the next thing inside of this cast a shadow framework is the O, is being open, openness. It's being vulnerable. It's telling stories. It's like telling the good, the bad, and the ugly, because sometimes, people want to hear the things that maybe are not going so well when you're having a bad day, because they're also going through those sorts of things. So just being open and willing to share the things that are going well, but also being vulnerable and sharing some of the things that are not going so well. And last but not least is what I call the wrap up, right? So we're talking about wrapping up. It is like, what should you want to make sure that in your wrap up that you are letting people know where they can get more information from you. You want to be able to create a sense of warmth and welcomeness, because those are the times, if you think about, the restaurants or the homes that you've been into, have they been warm? Do they give you a sense of welcomeness? If they don't, you're probably unlikely to go back there. So it's the same applies here. You want to be able to create a situation where it's warm, it's welcoming, that people want to come back. And in doing that, you want to tell them where they can go to next to find out more about you. So you'll notice that in the wrap up of this show, I'll be telling you about when I'm be going live again, where you can find me, if I have any downloadable documents that I would like to share as a result of today's session, then I make sure that I give all of those to you so that people can continue to have a relationship with me and I can continue to build a relationship with them. So I just want to recap on all of this. So that is the cast a shadow framework. So it started with the C for content. Then we went to the A for articulation. Then the S for structure, the T for tone. Then we go to A for authenticity, S for sound, the H for hands and head. Yeah, we want to make sure that we're using all of that. And I'm going to say you want to use that even if you're doing a podcast and nobody can see you. I was watching somebody today who was actually recording an audio book. Mike Kim was doing this, and he was recording his audio book, and he was very animated. So using his hands, using his head, using gestures, even though all he was doing was recording audio. So it doesn't matter whether you're on a podcast or you're on a live show, hands and head, they matter. You want to make sure that you're utilizing those and using them to bring more emphasis and more emotion to what you're talking about. H, and then there's another A, right? So there was another A that went into the mix, and then we went to went to D, which was dress. So you want to look at your dress sense, and then we went to your domain. So both internally and externally, you want to make sure that your domain is set up so that you can deliver a really awesome show. Then openness, so making sure that you're being vulnerable, that you are being open, you're sharing things, you're not just giving people half the equation. And then the last is the wrap up. So that being said, guys, I'm going to wrap up today. It's been a fantastic, actually, I've really enjoyed taking you through this process. We have more of this process covered inside of our Influence and Authority program. So this is just one small component of what we do. We look at all elements of creating a really successful anchor platform that enables people to increase their level of influence and authority in their industry so that you can unleash yourself from there being an unknown expert to then stepping into who you should be and casting a very long shadow to be a sought after authority in your industry. So if that's what you're wanting to do, you've heard from me at the beginning of this of today's session, that live show is where it's at. Do not look back in 5 years' time and think, man, I should have started blogging 5 years ago. I should have started podcasting 2 years ago. 5 years from now, you'll be wishing that you started your own show. Now is the time that you can do it. If you would like to, and you would like somebody to hold your hand, experts to hold your hand every step of the way, then you would head on over to influenceandauthority.com and just go check out the program that we've got. We've got a lot of students that have already launched their show, and they're doing amazing. They are great, creating fantastic content, creating amazing shows, and they're actually getting results from it, which is fabulous. So they're starting to sell a lot of their online programs because they've done this in the right manner. So again, just head on over to Influence and Authority. There is another live, or recorded, I should say, recorded web class that I've done on there, and I would encourage you guys to head on over and watch that if you're at all interested in creating your own live anchor platform in 2021. So guys, I hope you've enjoyed today's show. I certainly have enjoyed spending my time with you. I will be back again next week, you guys, with another amazing guest. So we'll be talking more about how to unlock the messages within you, how to create your own anchor platform, and I'll continue to do these solo shows will be on a Friday. So 10 a.m. Brisbane time is the time that you need to dial into their live show. Wednesdays and Fridays, and you can participate if you so wish to on both YouTube and on Facebook. So I want to say thanks very much, and have a fantastic weekend. Like you guys know now, my family and I, we enjoy going camping, so it's a long weekend here in Australia, and that's where you'll find me, is camping, running around in Pottsville, New South Wales, Australia is where I will be heading for the weekend. So I hope you guys have a wonderful weekend, and I'll see you guys again next week for another episode of Unlocked. I'm Tracy Wilson. Again, my pleasure to be here with you guys. Bye for now.